Don't let your love grow cold. Here's what I mean by that. In Matthew 24, Jesus tells his disciples, because lawlessness will multiply, the love of many will grow cold. You know how when you buy a cup of coffee, it usually comes to you piping hot, and so you have to blow on it so you don't end up like Anakin Skywalker and Mustafar? Yeah, kind of the same idea within the Greek here, that the cold love comes about from a gradual cooling, a blowing on that hot surface. And the point that Jesus is trying to make here is this is not something that happens overnight. It's something that happens very gradually. Sometimes we're not even aware of the fact until it's too late. Kind of think of like the frog in the boiling water example, right? Where if you take a frog and you put it into a boiling pot of water, the frog is immediately going to jump out because of how hot it is. But if you put that same frog in a pot with room temperature water and slowly heat it up, the frog is going to boil alive without really knowing what's going on. And so when it looks like the world is getting more and more evil by the day, there's this sentiment that can start creeping into our lives, a slow chipping away where we become more and more calloused and more suspicious of the people around us. We tend to retreat into our factions. This is actually something that Jesus points out about the church of Ephesus in the book of Revelation. They do this amazing job of calling out false apostles and people who are not adhering to the gospel of Jesus Christ, and they're commended for that. But at the same time, the charge against them is that they had lost the love that they had at first. This love that Jesus is speaking of is actually what's spoken of in Hebrews 12, talking about the hospitality that they used to have for one another, how they endured with one another, how they visited each other in prison, how they gladly gave up their possessions because they knew that they had a greater and enduring possession. So I would encourage you, guard your heart above everything else. Look for symptoms of a heart growing sick. What do I mean by that? Jesus tells us it's not what goes into a man that defiles him, but what comes out of him that defiles him. There are going to be signs that your heart is growing sick, that your love is growing cold. And it might be time for you to cut things out of your life that is contributing to that. So if you're being quick with your words, if you're quick-tempered, if you're not showing grace, if you find yourself constantly angry at other people, if you're hating other people even, it would be a good idea to take a step back, look at the things that you're consuming, the things that you're listening to, whether it be social media, news, or something else, and just say, maybe that's not beneficial for me. And dwelling upon the things that are good and lovely and pure and beautiful. Not living in self-denial, but shifting your focus to the things of God rather than the things of the world.